The 2023 NFL draft is in the books, and we know who the Broncos draft class is. And just a disclaimer at the start of the video, this will not be including the undrafted free agents. That is going to be a separate video, probably tomorrow, I would expect, or in a few days, whenever all the undrafted free agents are signed. Maybe not all of them, because there could be some signed in a few days and whatnot, but we'll see. That is not this video. This is just going to be covering the 2023 NFL draft class for the Denver Broncos. My thoughts, my opinions. I had my instant reactions. If you want to go to the live streams, you can see you can see my day 2 reactions for the Broncos picks. On day 3, I did record myself reacting to, well, I don't want to spoil the pick, but the JL Skinner pick. I did react to that, and then I didn't react to the Alex Forsyth pick because that was the third to last pick in the draft, and I kind of forgot at that point because I was just sitting watching the draft all day, and my mind just kind of went numb. But anyways, let's jump into this. But first, as always, I want to remind you that Jesus is King. I pray that you give your life to him. He's got a plan and a purpose for you, and I just hope that you accept Jesus with your whole heart and believe that he died on the cross for your sins. And if you truly believe that, then you'll go to heaven. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's by grace through faith which we are saved. It's our faith in Jesus, and in Jesus that he lived the perfect life and died on the cross for our sins so we can go to heaven, not through our works, but through Jesus' works and what he did for us on the cross. And now with that being said, before I say that, a lot of people won't like that I'm sharing this message, but as a Christian, I do feel it's important to share this message with as many people as possible. And, a lot of people won't like it, but quite frankly, I don't care. I'm just going to share the message and the good news of God. Now, let's go ahead. Let's jump into the 2023 Denver Broncos NFL Draft. With the 63rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos actually traded up to the last pick of the second round to select Marvin Mims Jr., wide receiver out of Oklahoma. So back-to-back years, the Broncos have had, or I guess selected with the very last pick in the NFL, or in the second round of the NFL draft. And back-to-back years, they have selected a player from Oklahoma. Marvin Mims, though, is a slot machine. He is going to be in the slot. He will 100% be our slot receiver. Now, this will put some pressure on KJ Hamler on potentially being in the slot role. So, I mean, KJ, great player, just has been hurt quite a bit recently. But Marvin Mims, he has great top speed. He's got he needs to work on his route tree a little bit, I will say that, but he's not afraid to go high point the ball. He's not afraid to be a physical receiver and high point and jump catch down the field. He is smaller at 5'11", I believe. 5'10", 5'11", depending on what website or what, just where you look, it depends. But Marvin Mims is absolutely a machine at the slot, and I think he's going to be a good player for the Broncos. Going to be a slot receiver, obviously. But, I think a big reason why, at least on draft night, a lot of people were upset with the Marvin Mims pick is not because of the player himself. Marvin Mims is a great player, but it's the fact that we passed on guys like Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs, both of whom can play in the slot. I feel like it's just passing on those receivers were the reason, a lot of Broncos fans were upset. But, I think that Broncos fans, we should learn to love this pick. I've started to change my mind, seeing the plays that he is making, his catch ability, the catch radius that he has, the speed down the field. He is going to get open down the field. He is going to be a deep threat with his speed. So I'm going to give this pick a B. I think it's a solid pick. Sure, it does suck that we passed on a couple other receivers, that I personally had ranked higher in Jalen Hyatt and Josh Downs. But at the end of the day, this is a very solid pick for the Broncos. Then with the next pick, the Broncos selected Drew Sanders, linebacker from Arkansas. He transferred from Alabama, where he was a 5-star recruit as an edge rusher, but he shifted more to the inside linebacking role. Now, Drew Sanders does need to work on his zone coverage, dropping back into coverage. That is not his strong suit, but, he can get after the passer. He can help stop the run, defend the run, and this is a great scheme fit. I've looked at a bunch of sources that I trust in terms of scouting, and Drew Sanders is a perfect scheme fit for the Broncos. He is going to help our linebacking core. Josie Jewell is on the last year of his 2-year deal that he signed last offseason. We extended Alex Singleton to that 3-year deal. Jonas Griffith, I think, is a solid a third string linebacker. But Drew Sanders, a lot of people had a first-round grade on him. A lot of people thought that Drew Sanders was going to be a first-round pick, the first linebacker off the board. That ended up being Jack Campbell to the Lions at pick 18. But a lot of people had Drew Sanders as that top linebacker, and the fact that he falls to the Broncos, it's absolutely tremendous. Now, I don't think he's going to start right away. I think that Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton will start, but I do think he will be rotated in to play that rotation role of the inside linebackers. If you want to move him to edge, you probably could, but I think they drafted him just to be an inside linebacker. So this is a great pick. I'm giving this pick an A+. The fact that he was still there at pick 67, that is tremendous value. So I'm giving that pick an A+. Great pick by the Denver Broncos. With the 83rd pick, the Denver Broncos actually traded up. They traded their 4th round pick in 2024, and they also traded a 3rd round pick, or they traded their 4th round pick this year in 2023, but they also traded their 2024 3rd round pick. And since the Broncos had 2 3rd round picks, it's whichever one is going to be later in the draft. So if the Saints do better this season, then it'll be the Saints pick. But if we do better than the Saints, then it will be our 3rd round pick. So we'll still have the better of the 2 3rd round picks. And we traded up for Riley Moss, defensive back out of Iowa. Moss can play cornerback or safety, but Sean Payton said that Riley Moss will be playing cornerback. So the Broncos traded up for the illustrious white cornerback. There hasn't been one in a really, really long time. Jason Sehorn was the last one in the league that I can think of, at least. So Riley Moss, it's an interesting pick, but when you look at Riley Moss's tape, he is just a beast. He plays with a high motor, high grit, high intensity, and he's got the speed to match up. If you looked back at his past, he was a high school sprinter in the hurdles, and he is super fast. So he has the ability to keep up with receivers on the outside, adding to that cornerback room. Again, he can play safety if you need him to, so he's got that versatility to play either of them. And I think that's kind of something the Broncos liked, is the versatility of a lot of the players that they have drafted this year. Mims, a slot receiver, could play on the outside. I wouldn't. I'd play him in the slot. Drew Sanders, he can play as an edge rusher, can play inside as a linebacker. And then Riley Moss can play as a cornerback or safety. That's why I listed him as a DB. But I do think with our current safeties, I do think that Riley Moss will play a corner. I think he'll probably be in that 3rd, 4th cornerback role. You have Pat Surtain as the number 1. I think you have Damari Mathis, of course, as the number 2. And then you have K'Wan Williams as the number 3, with Riley Moss being that 4th corner. But I also could see, if K'Wan Williams struggles or Damari Mathis struggles, Riley Moss jumping up into one of these starting roles. And then, of course, K'Wan Williams will be it will be the end of his contract at the end of this season. So then at the end of this season, your top 3 corners could be Pat Surtain, Riley Moss, and Damari Mathis. So I think this is a great pick, and that's why he gets a grade of a B for me. Moving on to our next pick, which didn't come into the 6th round, it is going to be J.L. Skinner, safety out of Boise State, and you can see the grade already. This gets a pick of an A, or a grade of an A. J.L. Skinner was my 4th best safety in this class, behind Brian Branch, Jordan Battle, and Antonio Johnson. The reason that J.L. Skinner fell this far is because he was dealing with an injury coming into this draft process and throughout this draft process, but it sounds like he should be good to go for rookie minicamp or at least training camp. So that is good news. And that's why he fell all the way to the 6th round. And the Broncos drafted tremendous value. J.L. Skinner is a hard-hitting safety. I think a lot of us have seen the quote on Twitter that goes something like, I want you to fear me when we're playing. I want you to know that I'm going to hit you and hit you hard, something like that. So that is good news. You always want DBs to be, you want them to hit and tackle and wrap up. I feel like that's the Bronco way, the non-negotiables of tackling as a DB. I will say, though, as hard as he does hit, he does struggle to wrap up some tackles and bring them to the ground. Same thing with Drew Sanders. Drew Sanders also struggles to finish tackles, so that's something that they do need to work on. But J.L. Skinner is going to be a solid safety for the Broncos. The only question that I have is, where is J.L. going to fit into this safety group? Of course, you got Justin Simmons as the starter. Then at strong safety, I really like Caden Stearns, and I think Caden Stearns should be the starting strong safety. But then you look at the other safeties, right? And I would assume that J.L. Skinner would have a spot on the roster behind one of those two. And then you also got P.J. Locke, who you signed or extended him a little bit. I can't remember. I think that was like a 1-year deal. And then you also, of course, have Delaren Turner-Yell, who you drafted in the 5th round last year out of Oklahoma. So I'm just a little bit confused on where I think he'll play. I think he'll probably be a strong safety. I think he'll probably be Caden Stearns' backup, maybe rotates in with Caden Stearns to see how he plays. But this is a fantastic pick by the Broncos, and that's why J.L. Skinner gets a grade of an A for me. Next up is Alex Forsyth, center out of Oregon, and this gets a B+. I have no idea how Alex Forsyth fell to the 3rd to last pick in the NFL draft. We all thought that the Broncos were going to go center earlier, whether that was going to be a Luke Weipler, John Michael Schmitz, or Ricky Stromberg, and Olusegun Oluwatimi, a bunch of other guys. Alex Forsyth was one of my best centers, though. I thought he was going to be probably like a 5th round pick. So the fact that he was able to fall to the 7th round and the Broncos are able to get him, he's going to be solid. And then you've seen the reviews online by a lot of former offensive linemen, talking about Alex Forsyth. One of them said he's going to be a starter for 10 years. He's going to be a very solid safety. And from what I've seen and what I've done research on, I think he could give Lloyd Cushenberry a run for his money. Maybe not necessarily. I think Lloyd Cushenberry will still be the starting center this season. But, depending on how well he plays, if he gets opportunities, how he looks in the preseason, Alex Forsyth could very, very easily be the starting center for the Denver Broncos come the 2024 season. So I think this is a fantastic pick. Tremendous value for being the 3rd to last pick in the draft. Great pick by Sean Payton and co. I have no idea, once again, how Alex Forsyth fell this far. This is a tremendous, tremendous pick. So that's why it gets a B+. That is going to be it for this video. Actually, before we end it off, I do want to say that Adam Troutman was a part of this draft. The Broncos traded the 2nd, 6th round pick 195 to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for this pick 257, which we got Alex Forsyth. And the Broncos also acquired tight end Adam Troutman from the New Orleans Saints to add to that tight end core. So that's just a quick thing I did want to mention, but I didn't mention too much of the trades because I guess if you wanted to mention it, we traded up for Marvin Mims. I believe we traded pick 68 in our 5th round pick to trade up for Marvin Mims. Stayed put at pick 67, drafted Drew Sanders. Then we traded up to pick 83 with our 4th round pick and a 2024 3rd round pick, which is ever the lower one, which we already talked about, or I guess it's whichever is the worst pick. The higher pick in terms of the pick number will keep the better pick of the two that we had. And then J.L. Skinner, I guess, was part of the trade because when we did trade up for Marvin Mims, we also got a 6th round pick. And then, of course, we traded down with the Saints for pick 195. We got pick 257 and Adam Troutman. So yeah, that is the trades. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on this draft class. If I had to give this a grade, I would give this draft class the grade of an A. I think the Broncos hit a home run with this draft class. Were very effective in the picks that they did make. And so yeah, that's my grade. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.